Time now for weather with Al Dutcher. And Al, hope you've had a good week. What are you tracking out there with the forecast?
Well, Troy, yes, it did survive the great 4th of July weekend. No major explosions of any consequence in my neighborhood. I hope everybody had a safe 4th of July. We did see a cool down, of course, as the models were indicating, and then we've seen the warmer temperatures move in, particularly across western Nebraska as we got into the midweek period, and then that slowly moved its way into eastern Nebraska. We also dealt with some periodic thunderstorm activity. A lot of it was isolated up till the middle of the week. And then we did see that cold front come through, and we're still dealing with some of the repercussions of that this morning. As we go forward in time, there are some concerns in regards to heat. It looks like as we get out past next weekend, we may be looking at another event, sort of like what we've seen in the middle of June, where we've seen temperatures pushing up in that 100-degree range. But before then, we're going to have to deal with several waves in a northwest flow that's going to rotate around the low that's responsible for our precipitation this last 24 hours. And that creates kind of an uncertainty going forward. But more importantly, before we get to the main forecast, I want to get you up to date on the latest Drought Monitor. And if we look at the latest Drought Monitor, the one thing I'll draw your attention to is that we do have some pretty significant conditions of dryness up in northern and northeastern Nebraska. And this has been persistent all spring. Did not get the moisture during the winter period that we've seen to the south of the Platte River. We also see some short-term dryness that started to materialize in the Fairbury over to the Hebron area. And we also deal with short and long-term dryness in the Panhandle. And that is a concern where the more of the heat has been and the less of the precipitation coverage with these warm temperatures coming possibly as early as next weekend. We're really going to have to pay attention to see whether or not this region really degrades much as we go through these next 2 weeks. Now, as we look at the upper air models, a trough that was responsible for our precipitation in the upper atmosphere is now swinging over central Iowa. We're kind of in a northerly to northwesterly flow across the eastern 2/3 of the state. There is a surface low in northeastern portions of Oklahoma that is bringing moisture up into this zonal boundary. So the main concentration of precipitation is going to be over the southern 2/3 of Iowa. And as we go into tomorrow, it looks like this low pressure system will cut off. We kind of mentioned that last week, that there was evidence of that. Surface low sits over in southern portions of Illinois. That's going to bring that Gulf moisture up in to feed this system. So we're going to see widespread moisture from essentially northern Louisiana all the way up into the eastern Corn Belt. And by Monday, we don't see very little movement in regards to the system. So that low pressure at the surface is over in eastern Iowa. We'll get some moisture wrap around, and we'll also get some waves of energy moving in through the northern plains that may generate a few isolated thunderstorms, particularly during the late afternoon overnight hours. And as we get into Tuesday, we see a kind of a northwest flow with a high pressure to our southwest and several ripples that we'll deal with throughout the week, particularly in the eastern 2/3 of the state, that might touch off some convection during the afternoon. So we kind of see this Tuesday afternoon that there is some signs that maybe some convection over northeastern and eastern Nebraska. By the time we get to Wednesday, another trough tries to strengthen as it moves toward the Great Lakes. That's going to drive another trough through the state, keep our temperatures basically cooling back down into more seasonal across the eastern part of the state. And once again, we deal with a scattered thunderstorm activity. Now, as we get into the day on Thursday, we see another couple ripples that'll move with this trough, kind of move toward the central and eastern Corn Belt. That once again gives us a chance for some scattered thunderstorm activity across the state as high pressure is more firmly in control over the central Rockies, kind of see by the models. But the main concentration of moisture is going to be eastern Iowa and points off to the east. Now, as we get into Friday, this is where things start to get a little bit more interesting. We get another wave that's going to move through the central Corn Belt. So eastern Nebraska is going to remain more on the normal to slightly cool side, but the heat is going to start to return in earnest across western Nebraska. You kind of see from the flow of the thunderstorms it's going to be on the front side of this ridge. More concerning is that ridge is going to start to build in next weekend and may actually bring us on 100-degree temperatures the following week into at least the western half of the state. So we looked at 8 to 14-day forecast. It's taking us next Thursday through the following Tuesday. Above normal temperatures with that heat coming in and below normal precipitation, which we would expect under high pressure aloft.